Hello, party people. I hope you're doing wonderfully. Welcome to week 3, newsletter 3 of the People Talk build. And we'll just start off with the really big, good news, which is that our MVP is set to be released in 2 to 3 months. And we already have a considerable amount done, considering the fact that this video or this idea took off 3 weeks ago. And we already have built a video feed that scrolls, likes and comments working, a functional login, and in-app video creation. I just heard about that this afternoon, that one of our developers, Thomas, has completed that, which is an amazing thing to be able to offer you in our MVP. And you'll be hearing more from him and seeing more of him in coming Substack articles, maybe the newsletter, as we introduce you to some of the developer team based on what kinds of contributions they're making to the build. So a lot is happening. And the idea behind the newsletter is that we give you the high level updates, but you'll have lots of opportunities to click off and go deeper into the Substack if there are any particular areas that are of interest to you. And so we'll just start from the top. You may have noticed the Reddit has gotten a little bit quiet, but don't let that fool you. First of all, about 2,000 of us in there, and we are in the top 16% of engaged, active communities on Reddit. And the truth is, a lot of the core conversation has been moved to Discord, where things are popping off like kettle corn. So it's invite only for now because we need to keep it organized and efficient and streamlined with the kind of core teams. While we get that assembled in the future, we may open it up publicly, but just for the sake of efficiency and we are super zoned in right now, that's just how we're going to run that. Transparency remains key. So we'll still be making meetings and stuff public, and you'll be able to see in real time a lot of the decisions that are being made. All right. Key updates, how you can help us cover cost at no cost to you or a donation if that's what you would like to do. We'll talk more about that. MVP defined, core team, much of it is assembled. User research is underway. We're doing it in tandem with the build because we want to keep this moving as quickly as possible. First pieces of the app are set up. We talked about that. An innovative and fair compensation model is being structured for volunteers. I'm really excited for this. And roundtables are launching soon to debate core features and governance. So how can you help? Everyone keeps asking. And it's really testament to the values and vibes of the community that we're cultivating. Just super grateful that people are so eager to contribute. And so we're getting to the point where we need to start considering server costs, right? Those could run between $500 to $2,000 a month starting out. And the intention was to bootstrap this, but then I was like, well, what happens is I logged into Substack the other day and I saw we have almost $2,000 in pledges. I haven't even offered Substack as a paid subscription. I was like, oh, we don't want to be asking people for money yet. We'll wait until crowdfunding. And a bunch of you came through offering pledges. And I was like, wow, that could actually be really helpful in covering a lot of these upfront costs. So if you would like to, I'm going to turn on the paid option for Substack if you would like to make a pledge that way. And what that's going to go toward is covering some of our management stuff. So for example, Figma, so the designers can all have seats and work more efficiently. So, our Monday, our project management software, which I was just going to bootstrap, our server costs, and even things like the subscription to Beehive, which the bigger our email newsletter gets, the more expensive it is to send this stuff out. So we'll be super transparent in how that is being spent if you decide to go the Substack route. But there's also a way that you could contribute without paying $1, which is you get someone else to pay $1, which is Beehive allows you to have an advertisement or advertisements in your newsletter. And if you just click on the one that's going to be right here, it'll get us $1. And so literally if 12% of our recipients could click on that advertisement, our server costs would be covered, and it would be amazing because it would be at no cost to you or me. And I'm trying to choose things that are very values aligned. And so 1440 Media is a news outlet that is it's supposed to be unbiased. So it is literally just the facts presented to people so that they can make their own mind up about what it is that they believe. And I think that's really important and resonates really well with kind of our zeitgeist, where we often say things like out of the echo chambers onto the purchase. So that's another thing. When you read the newsletter, if you just click on this, if 12% of you click on this, you could cover our server costs and it would be amazing. And the third thing is spreading the word is also very helpful, whether it's on TikTok in comments to your friends. ultimately word of mouth is going to be the make or break for how we get through crowdfunding. Other opportunities in the newsletter, I'm going to start putting in these when there are volunteer opportunities. You'll see that a few times. Connect us with creators. I'm going to put in a link where if you are a creator, and you don't have to be huge, but we're getting different kinds of creators in here to help inform the MVP. And we also are doing a little bit of user research in that direction. So if you know someone or if you are someone, I'm going to have a survey in here that you can click off to and submit. And then roundtables is another thing that we'll talk more about below. But basically, there are some things that need to be debated, like the best way to incorporate how exactly to structure a DAO. And I think it would be really cool to have a panel of experts talk about this publicly. And so you can see very transparently the conversations that are being had and why we arrive at the decisions that we do. And if you are an expert, we want to hear from you in Reddit. So I know you exist and are in our ecosystem and can pull you in if and when appropriate. MVP, we pretty much talked about. Only other thing here is that if you want to see our first public meeting, this was the synthesis from a UX workshop, a user experience workshop. And it just, you really get a sense of the team and the energy and how excited everyone is to be working on this. Meet some of the team. So this went out in our Substack, and that is our stewards or our strategists and our design and UX team. You can meet all of them in there. Their full bios are on Substack now. Compensation. Let's talk about this for a moment. So I had pitched this to our financial steward, not knowing entirely how to do it. But the idea was, hey, I don't feel good about asking people to do this for nothing, right? These are volunteers who are coming and giving their time, but at the same time, we can't do traditional shareholding because that takes us away from what we have promised people. So the idea is that we're not going to have equity, right? We're not going to have traditional shareholding because for-profit motives so often hijack the direction of a platform, and it's not always aligned with the best interests of the users. And so the way to get rid of that is to eliminate traditional equity and shareholding altogether. And the drawback of that is that usually when people work on a startup, they're given equity. And that means that, they spend a lot of time for free upfront working on something. But if the platform takes off, then they get to see some of that revenue. And in fact, they could, if the classic story is about the guy who painted the Facebook headquarters. And when he was given equity, they were like, okay, you can have $2,000 for painting our little startup headquarters for Facebook, or you can have equity. And he chose equity. And when Facebook IPO'd, he ended up making multi-millions of dollars. Now, that's not what we're looking to do, but we do want to compensate people fairly. And so the idea is, how can we create a model where once the platform starts to generate revenue, people who volunteered on the project are essentially paid retroactively or compensated retroactively for their contributions? How do we structure that legally, taxation wise? There's a lot of things to consider, and it's really quite innovative. And someone mentioned Valve does something similar, the gaming company. And so we kind of took some notes from them, some notes here. And ultimately, Casey already had a bunch of ideas on this, and she's going to be masterminding that. And so more details about how we're compensating volunteers coming soon, which is exciting for volunteers. But I also just think it shows you, our crowd, like really where our head and our heart is at in creating this and bringing it to life. So you can read a little more about that here, and then there will be more. Another thing I wanted to touch on is political ideology, because this keeps coming up. And my intention is that this is the platform itself is politically neutral, right? Technology is neutral, but in being that, we make space for people from all walks of life to bring their beliefs. And it's been really interesting because on the TikTok, in the Reddit, and just conversations I've had, people want to attach a label to this, and everyone wants it to be like their label, right? So the socialists are like, it's socialist, and the anarchists are like, it's anarchist, and the conscious capitalists are like, it's conscious capitalism. And I can see all of that being, a potential, but I'm not interested in like slapping a label on it. I'm more interested in creating a space that allows all of those ideas and beliefs to be held and heard. And so one thing I thought would be cool is to invite a few of you to come co-author something on our Substack. So, maybe you're really involved in holacracies or sociocracies, or you're really into the socialist side of things, or maybe you're like an anarchist and you're like, it all needs to burn to the ground, or maybe you're a conscious capitalist and you're like, actually, capitalism would be a great model if it had checks and balances, if it wasn't cancerous, or maybe it's something else entirely. But we want to hear from you. You could just, I think you can just reply to this email. And, if you are an expert in that area, I think it'd be really cool to have a Substack article co-authored by a few people from our crowd who may see this completely differently, and creating the space for that in honor of one of our mantras: out of the echo chambers and onto the bridges. So, in the spirit of what we're building, that's an opportunity to get involved. Another opportunity to get involved could be the roundtables. And so these are going to be these discussions where panels of experts come together to debate the best way to do things like incorporation and governance. We're leaning toward a liquid democracy, but what does that look like? How do we map that to the technology? So there's a lot there. More information on the roundtables will be coming out. And if this is something where you're like, I really want to be involved from that or in that, then the Reddit is the best place to start to get our attention, and so that we know you are in our ecosystem. Yeah, it's kind of crowdsourced. There's a lot of people, it's a lot to manage, and so the idea is post in the Reddit. The good ideas rise to the top, and we will pull in people if and when appropriate. And that is it in a nutshell. Yeah, I'm really just so thrilled that this is coming together the way that it is. And I said this in the Substack, but I really believed in this idea when I started pitching it on TikTok, but now even more so than the idea, I believe in the people standing behind this. I believe in the people who are stewarding it in and bringing their skill sets and their gifts and their talents in order to bring it to life. Like, it's a really beautiful journey. And thank you for being a part of it.